Hi, welcome back to another little small business chinwag. If you're new here, hi, I'm Anna. Basically, I started a small business like maybe coming up to 3 years ago. I'd say maybe in the last year and a half it started doing really well, and I'm just kind of sharing my experiences, what I've learned, having a bit of a chat about that basically. So I thought I'd start today with talking about why it's really important to start your business like straight away today. So I have actually made some notes today, quite organised. So I think I've got about 5 points maybe of reasons why you need to start today. And then after that, I thought I'd talk about some of the things that I've learnt since starting that I think would have made my life a bit easier had I known them when I was starting. So then I'll end up talking about that. Okay, so let's crack on with point number one. Yeah, so the first kind of reason why you need to start straight away is because most likely the idea that you have now for what your business is going to be, for example, let's say you might think I'm going to make some socks and sell them on Etsy. This is your plan so far. That's probably most likely not going to be what you end up doing, because it's kind of like one idea leads on to another, which leads on to another, and that's how your business is going to develop. And I always think of this analogy, is that the right word? Basically, what you're aiming for, your goal, is at the end of a corridor. I really like this kind of thing because it makes me remember stuff. It's a bit cheesy, but your goal is at the end of the corridor, and along that corridor you've got loads of other doors that could open that are all different opportunities, different things that you currently have no idea what's behind any of those doors until you start taking actual steps down the corridor to get to your end goal. This has proven to be very true for me so far. My original goal was just to basically swap over from my job, which was making costumes kind of for other people, and I wanted to just start making bags at home because it was going to be more flexible, and selling them online and kind of making the same amount of money. It wasn't massively ambitious, but that's what I thought was gonna happen for me. I was just going to make some stuff at home, put it on Etsy, and it was going to sell, and it was just going to be like that. When I started putting myself out there a bit, especially on social media, I started getting, for example, one door that opened would be I would be getting messages from those kind of independent gift shops asking if I'd like to stock my products with them. That was, something I'd never really thought about until they asked, basically. Like some of the doors you'll open, you'll have a little snoot around in, and you might think, oh, okay, this isn't really for me. I did try out that, but at the time I then realised I haven't really got time to have my hands in every different pie here, so I did withdraw. It just wasn't right at the time. But it was still a door that opened an opportunity, something, that I could think about. Something quite exciting. It's quite exciting when you get, you can put your stuff in a shop. Yeah, that was one opportunity. Another one, I kept having many people asking for the sewing patterns to make my bags, and I never would have even considered that I'd be capable of making them like on the computer. Still quite a struggle, to be honest. But it's just not something I would have thought about at all, and that's been a bit of a game changer for me and a really exciting opportunity. So that door's opened, and I'll be staying in that room as well a bit. So that was a really exciting opportunity that opened. I mean, like YouTube, if you told me a couple of years ago, Anna, you're going to be doing like some video tutorials on how to make your bags online, I would have laughed you out the door. Because came off of the fact that I was making the videos on Instagram. So that kind of door opened for me. So these are all things that I wouldn't have ever thought about before, but they're stuff that I really enjoy doing, to my surprise, and B, they're things that are going to bring me an extra income. But yeah, as I say, until you start taking those steps towards whatever your goal is, you're not going to know where your business is going to take you. And I get really excited now because I still don't know. I'm reaching for different goals all the time, but I still don't know what different opportunities are going to arise along the way. And I find that really motivating and exciting. That's number one reason why you should start today, because you want to find out all those fun little other things that you haven't currently thought of yet. And kind of actually also one a little addition to that note is that whatever it is that you think you're going to make, let's say socks, you've probably got an idea of just a nice normal pair of socks or whatever. Like I was going to make drawstring bags. That's all I was going to make, and that was the plan I had. I'm just going to do drawstring bags out of vintage fabrics. But then when I got into it, you know, one day I made a bum bag and I really liked how that went. And then I made a backpack, which was like way away from the drawstring bags that I originally planned. They were kind of the thing that started to get me noticed, rucksacks and backpacks. If I'd have just sat around, which I did for ages, thinking, oh, after I have this baby, I'm going to sell drawstring bags on Etsy, I wasted a lot of time doing that. I mean, no regrets or anything, but I always just thought, oh, I'll put these drawstring bags on Etsy and they'll go. It's not until you start really diving into making whatever it is and experimenting that different ideas come. So yeah, so that's kind of addition to the first point. And the next point is that when you start, whenever it is that you think you're going to start, so for example with me, I sold a load of face masks on Etsy, which planted the seed in my head that I wanted to do this. I wanted to sell stuff myself as a business, work fully for myself. Then I went back to work after the lockdown, as is probably quite common. Didn't do anything with Etsy. But then like I got pregnant, and in the back of my head I was thinking, when I stop working because I'm going to have this baby, I'll just get back onto Etsy, list my bags and they'll sell, and that's that. And so I had this kind of, I'll start my business then. In actual fact, it doesn't really work like that. When you start your business, it doesn't just start. You don't just list your stuff and then they sell, and then you make some more and list it and then they sell. Like, it's not that easy. If you're like me, you'll list your stuff and then realize that, hang on a minute, I don't know anything. I don't know anything about the internet. What is an algorithm? I remember thinking. And I was also under this thing of like, oh, it's all right because I'll advertise my stuff on, I'll get an Instagram account. I was imagining that I was just going to post a picture of the bag and then people were going to say, yes, I want that, and buy it. Like, I thought it was all going to be this easy. It wasn't. But you don't know what you don't know until you start. I actually think that was probably a reason why I didn't start for a while, because subconsciously I was like scared to find out how much I didn't know about everything, I think. And when you have this thinking as well that when you start, that's when it's going to start, you kind of think, okay, well, I'll do that when I've got more time. Like whenever this magical time is that anyone has when they have more time. I just don't think that really happens. The next point I wanted to make is, if you're waiting until you've got more time or the right time, don't. Because, and this is the truth, my business grew so much faster and so much more, and it was so much organised when I had less time. I gave up my job in April last year. Before that, I was really, really tight for time. But because of this, everything was so organised, and I was forced to focus on the things that were gonna move my business forward and scrap the rest. And that's why I got rid of any of the independent, like putting my stuff in these independent gift shops, doing market, anything that was a lot of input and I couldn't really see any output from them. I had to really think, what is the thing that's going to propel my business forward? For me, I chose social media, and so therefore I was like, okay, well, I've got no time, so I can just about make one bag a week in the evenings, like built a few evenings. That's probably gonna give me what I could squeeze 3 Instagram posts out of that. I could take some pictures of it, do a video of me talking about it, maybe some shots of me making it. Okay, so in the time, this is kind of crazy, but you know when you read stuff and you believe it and everyone says, oh, you've got to post 7 times a week on Instagram. This is what I thought. So in my head I was like, okay, I need another 4 posts from nothing to fill up my Instagram. So what I was doing is, on the tube to work, I was editing videos that I had on my phone that I'd taken for Instagram. On the way back on the tube, I would brainstorm ideas for these 4 other posts that I needed. So stuff to talk about, different fabrics, whatever. Like really, I was kind of thinking about anything and everything. But when you start brainstorming, like, ideas come. So it was a very time well spent, actually. Yeah, doing that on the way back, so that the next day when I was looking after my son, as soon as he fell asleep, I could whip my phone out, look at the list of ideas that I had for videos, get my tripod out and just record, you know, as many as I could, really. And then the next time when I went to work, edit those ones, and so on and so forth. So it was very tight and very organised, and it worked. It really worked. And also what I was doing, does sound a bit mad, but on the walk to and fro the tube station, I was listening to audiobooks on stuff to do with business, mindset, selling, all sorts of stuff really. Like, it wasn't ideal, and I definitely couldn't have done it for more time than I did. It was probably about 3 months I was in this crazy thing. But it did grow my business so much to the point where I couldn't continue with this mad schedule, and I had to, you know, make a cut somewhere, which was my job. So, you know, I kind of, who knows how long I would have trundled on with my fingers in all those different pies as well before, not really getting anywhere, but doing a lot of work is what I was doing before I was forced to completely focus and get organised. And I will say that since quitting my job and gaining a bit more time, organisation has dipped. I started taking on a lot more things to do. Things haven't moved as fast since then. So I need to get down to gain some of that organisation that I had when I was forced to be that organised. Do you know what I mean? So if you're waiting until you've got more time or the right time, like, use the time you've got, feel the urgency of it if you've hardly got any time. Use that urgency to really focus down on what you think the important thing is, propel your business, and just really use this little time that you have wisely. That's like something that really worked for me, and something I'm definitely going to try and get back myself actually. The last kind of small point I want to make about starting straight away is that I guarantee that whenever you start your business, and whenever it starts to go well, you will regret not starting sooner. Like, I mean, not regret, but you will think about, oh, I wish I'd started sooner. I just think there's nothing more satisfying than doing something yourself, building something. Nothing more exciting than the thrill of someone buying something that you've made. Just a massive sense of achievement. I think if you've got that bug where you want to do something, you want to start a little business, you want to work for yourself, then that's not going to go away. Without being over dramatic, like, you do only live once. You only have this one life, so make sure you're doing what you want to do. Okay, so that's cheesy ball bits over. Here are some things that I found out along the way, and I think they would have made my life easier had I have known them beforehand. Number one might be a bit surprising, but is that your first priority when starting should not be like anything to do with money. Most likely you've already got a job, or you're retired or something. Nobody just comes up with an idea. I wouldn't have thought, quits their job the next day and thinks, right, okay, I need to earn a whole wage now. So yeah, it shouldn't be a priority about money. I didn't do this. I very much had it in my head, and I think a lot of people probably do, is adding up how much you can make of one item in a day, how much you can sell it, how much therefore you'll be making in a day, and stuff like that. And it actually holds you back, because it holds you back from experimenting and making something that's going to really catch people's eye and catch people's attention. For example, this is why I wanted to make the drawstring bags, I guess, because they were quick and they were easy. Making something that's quick and easy isn't going to find you an audience. It isn't going to capture people's interest. It's the bigger things, the things that are perhaps less efficient time-wise and effort-wise, and therefore you have a tendency to kind of steer clear of. These are the things that are going to get you an audience and spark people's interest. And whilst you have a job, you're not relying on any income from this. What I would say is focus on the bigger the better, the more interesting. Doing something like crazy, documenting it online and showing people, because the first most important thing you need to do is find an audience. You need to find an audience. You know, I think, you know, sometimes you can look at your own stuff and think, oh, that's so lovely. You know, I would want that if I saw it in a shop or something. But the thing is, people have to see it, and people aren't going to see it if you don't have an audience. Once you have an audience, then you can actually start selling the stuff that is easier to make and will make you more of a profit. So it's kind of like you need to capture people's interest with big things before you can start selling them your little easier to make things. For example, with me, when I started making big backpacks, this is when people started getting really interested, and I built up an audience with making bigger things. They were a bit different, so people were interested. They were not interested in the bum bags I was making previously to that, because they've seen it before, other people are doing it. It's just not interesting enough to, you know what I mean. However, once I had built up an audience via doing bigger things on social media and spending my time kind of focusing on finding that audience, it was then that I could then start selling my bum bags and my smaller bags, which were making me more of a profit than, and I don't think people know this at all. People probably think, oh yeah, it's great that she's selling these rucksacks and stuff because they're £150, you know, she must be raking it. Really, time for time, I make a lot more money from selling bum bags for £60 because they take a lot less time, but I couldn't sell them without selling and having a bit of a name for myself for the bigger bags. So that's the first thing I would say. Focus on doing things that are going to build you an audience whilst you are not relying on the money, because once you have an audience and you have a demand for your products, that's the only time you can realistically quit your job and start doing this. So yeah, don't focus on the product and the profit from that and the money side of it at the beginning. Focus on doing, you know, interesting things, like experimenting with your creativity, trying to find the best products that are going to really put you on the shelf, and finding your audience instead, because then later you can start thinking, right, how am I going to make money from this? Second thing, and I feel like some people are going to just be like, oh, I don't want to hear it, because I was the same, is that having a niche is really, really important. When I first started, I did the drawstring bags, and then because I had a little bit of fabric, it was always a strip of fabric at the side that was perfect to make a hair scrunchie. I started making hair scrunchies, and then they started selling a lot more than the drawstring bags. So then I made some other hair accessories, and then because I had a baby at the time, I made baby bibs because I was making them for him anyway. So many random stuff, cushions, like loads of random stuff, and it was kind of all over the place. And I did hear this advice every now and again, you need to have a niche, and I thought, oh well, my niche is that it's all made out of vintage fabric. I'll probably talk about this more again at some point because there's a lot to say, but I started to feel like I was put in a hair category as well with Etsy because it seemed like kind of the only thing I was selling. So I thought, I've got to get back to bags. At one point I did just remove everything that wasn't to do with bags off my Etsy shop, and also I just had a bit of a detox of everything. Even on Instagram, I kind of, sounds harsh, but unfollowed anything that wasn't to do with my business as well, so that I had a lot of people who I was following who were doing similar things to me. Just really focused everything down into this niche of upcycling bags, and it really made a massive difference. There's a lot more to say on that, but for now, having a niche is really important. I would definitely start from that, because again, you can add to things once you have your audience. It's so much easier to build an audience with a niche because it's less confusing. You need to not confuse the internet, which is a big thing. If everything is very clear, then it's clearer for all the algorithms and all of that to put you in front of people who you're going to be of interest to, because everything is very clear. You've got a niche. It's easier for people to understand, and it looks a lot more professional as well. Like, if you know my business now, if you followed my Instagram, imagine if I came on today and said, oh, look everyone, I've made these baby bibs, you know, does anyone want one of these? It would look really weird. It looks far more professional to have one thing that you do and you're known for. So yeah, having a niche is important. So another thing that I think is really important is the importance of dedicating time to things like research, planning, and like learning. Sometimes you think, I've got to make stuff, so therefore I need to spend my time making things. If I'm sitting around like writing lists, or kind of like a big one for me was, I knew, because I had no experience with social media, I'd never used it before, I knew that I had to scroll through Instagram and look and research and assess other people's pages and use that for research. That in itself can feel like such a waste of time, because I think we do associate scrolling through social media as a bit of a waste of time. So that was really hard, and I still don't do that enough. You need to dedicate a little bit of time just to analysing, like researching things. When I was posting on social media for kind of the first year, I was literally posting a really boring picture with a really boring caption as often as I could. And it wasn't until I took the time to sit down when I decided I was going to really focus on social media and seek out some accounts that I enjoyed looking at and really delve into what was good about them and stuff. It wasn't until then that I really got an idea of, oh gosh, what I'm doing is actually incredibly dull and no wonder it's not working. So yeah, and planning as well. Sometimes you can think, oh, I've just got to crack on. I need to make these bags today, and like I don't have time to sit down and plan my week or what have you. Planning actually saves you a massive amount of time. One amazing book that I read that it really was good was The 12-Week Year. I think it's by like Brian P. Moran. Very sad that I know that. It's really good for helping you out on planning, kind of being organised and focused, I guess. The premise is, like, whatever your deadline is, wherever your deadline is, you're going to work up until that point. So, for example, if we give ourselves a year, we're going to probably not do a lot until near the end of the year and then go, oh, okay, not yet reached my goals, better crack on with that. It was quite interesting. When I was at university, actually, I was at an art university, and like a big percentage of people were dyslexic, which meant that for essays, they got 2 weeks extra. And you'd get like a few of the people who weren't dyslexic resenting that, oh, they get 2 weeks extra, you know, wish we had 2 weeks extra. Nobody's got 2 weeks extra, really, because it just means that whilst we're all handing ours in, they're thinking, oh, you know, I'm a bit jealous of that actually because we've not started. It's not 2 weeks extra, you're just starting 2 weeks later. And it's the same kind of thing that it talks about in the book. So, for example, if you had your goals that you wanted to achieve in 2025, well, if you brought that forward to 6 months, you would do that in 6 months. And if you brought that forward to 3 months, which is the 12-week year, then you're actually going to focus. It's going to be clear in your head all the time. You're going to focus and you're going to plan. You can plan 3 months. You can't really plan a year. It's a bit crazy. You can't plan a year week by week. You see what I'm trying to say anyway. It's a really good book and I would recommend that for planning and getting organised in that. So yeah, don't underestimate how important time spent on planning and research is something I'd do differently. And a last thing that I wish I'd known about before I started, which just changed, I think, my whole life really, to be over dramatic again, was the importance of having the right mindset. When I first started, I used to get really stressed out because I felt like I had so much to do and, you know, I had no time. And so if I made a mistake in this very little time, I would really be so upset about it. I can't believe I've wasted that time. That time's, you know, I don't have this time to waste. You know, we're going to make mistakes along the way. Anyway, I read this book on mindset. Now, I would recommend this one, but I also had to take a little bit of a pinch of salt here and there because it's very much, how to explain, like it, without... It's very much from the point of view of a man who wants to become very rich from being an investment banker and will do everything. So there's a few things in there, like you need to ignore your wife and kids if you want to succeed. I took that personally with a pinch of salt. But there was it really motivated me actually, and it really changed my whole outlook on how to react and deal with things. So the main point I kind of took from this is that if you believe wholly, so in what you're going to achieve, so let's say you've got your plan, you want to achieve it, you believe that this is going to happen, and there's no reason why you shouldn't believe it, because all you need to do, as I say, all the information's out there that you need. You just need to find that. You may need to step out of your comfort zone, but again, you can find information on how to do that. If it's achievable by anyone, it's achievable by you. And therefore, if you can envision yourself like achieving what it is that you want to achieve and really, really believe that it is going to happen, everything else becomes really easy because you know it's going to happen. So when you make these mistakes, it's just like, okay, well, actually that's good because that's a mistake that I've made now on the way to where I'm headed, and I won't make that again, and I've learnt from it, so therefore I'm one step closer. And so it just makes you brush off all your mistakes, keep positive, thinking about it all the time, which makes everything a lot easier. It makes it easier to step out of your comfort zone because you're thinking, okay, well, I might feel silly right now, but I won't feel silly once I've achieved what I'm definitely going to achieve. Like it really changes everything, and getting on top of that, it just makes everything a lot easier. Things a lot easier to deal with, and it's very motivating to know that you're going to get to where you want to get to as well. And that motivation will keep you going and will make you take actions that will make you reach those goals. So yeah, it was like a turning point for me. It was like hard, realised about the mindset thing. Easy things, you know. So that is a kind of rumble jumble of every reason why you need to start your small business today, and hopefully a few points at the end that have helped a little bit. Next week I want to make it a bit more organized. I feel like that was all a rumble jumble of info and stuff there. I think I'm going to focus it a bit more to one clear subject next week, and what I really want to talk about is how to have the confidence, how I got the confidence to kind of put myself very much as the face of my business, and very much put myself out there doing videos of me talking to the camera, talking about my work, things that I just never would have ever thought I would be able to do. How I kind of overcame that and was able to step out of that comfort zone, because I think that's quite an important starting point as well in order for us to build upon everything else. And I would say that it was it was the thing that I did that really like propelled everything for me. So yeah, so that's going to be next week. I hope you've got something from this week. I thought I was really organised, like I wrote some bullet points, did some planning, but it maybe feels like it was higgledy-piggledy. But anyway, if you've got this far, wowzers. And thanks for watching. I'll see you next week. Bye.